Every morning, millions of people wake to an alarm, move through traffic, sit beneath artificial light, stare into a glowing rectangle, and repeat the same narrow range of movements for most of the day. Nothing is hunting them. Nothing is chasing them. Nothing, at first glance, looks like danger. And yet, by evening, their bodies feel heavy. Their minds feel blunted. And somewhere underneath the routine, something is pushing back. Quietly, constantly. Get out. Most people assume work feels bad because it is too hard, but the deeper problem may be stranger than that. Human beings did not spend most of their evolutionary history doing nothing. They worked constantly. But for most of that history, work looked very little like this. And the most exhausting part of the modern workday may not be effort itself. It may be the shape of the effort. Let us begin by correcting a fantasy. Your ancestors were not permanently relaxed. They were not lying beside a fire while nature handed them everything they needed. Life required labor. Food had to be found. Water had to be reached. Tools had to be made and repaired. Children had to be carried. Shelter had to be maintained. Injury had to be managed. Other people had to be fed. Ancient life could be tiring, risky, and brutally uncertain. So the problem is not that human beings were never meant to work. We were. The problem is that the structure of modern work is historically strange. For most of human evolutionary history, effort was tied to changing conditions: weather, daylight, movement across the landscape, food availability, the needs of the group. The body did not usually perform the same constrained routine in the same artificial setting for the same block of hours day after day. Work shifted because the world shifted. And when the world changed, the task changed with it. There was no rigid industrial clock cutting life into identical compartments. No silent demand that effort must begin at a precise hour, continue in the same posture, under the same light, regardless of whether the body or mind was ready. Ancient work was often hard, but it was not usually organized like a spreadsheet. Ancient work could be exhausting, but it contained something many modern jobs quietly remove: control. Imagine two people facing the same difficult demand. Both must solve a problem. Both must exert effort. But one decides when to begin, how fast to move, when to pause, when to stop. The other is monitored, timed, interrupted, measured, and told that stepping away is failure. Physically, the task may be similar. Psychologically, it is not. This is one of the clearest findings in occupational stress research. High demands become especially damaging when they are paired with low control. Pressure alone is not the whole problem. Pressure plus helplessness is. Your ancestors also lived under pressure, but much of their effort was tied to immediate decisions and visible consequences. Should we keep moving? Should we turn back? Is this path worth the risk? Is the water farther ahead? Do we conserve energy now or spend it? The outcome was often concrete. Move toward water and the distance closes. Repair a shelter and the shelter improves. Find food and someone eats. Modern work often separates action from visible consequence. You send an email so another email can arrive. You finish a report so the data can be moved into another report. You attend a meeting to prepare for the next meeting. Something has been completed, but very often, nothing feels complete. And when effort loses its visible ending, the nervous system can remain trapped in a state that feels like unfinished pursuit. That may explain one of the strangest facts about office life. How can doing so little physical movement leave you feeling so tired? For most of human evolutionary history, daily effort likely involved frequent shifts between movement, attention, posture, and recovery. Walking, carrying, reaching, crouching, balancing, lifting, resting, then moving again. The body did not treat one chair as its primary habitat. Modern work changed that rhythm. A seat stabilizes the body. A screen narrows attention to a small, fixed field. The hands move. The eyes move. But much of the rest of the body remains strangely quiet. At first, sitting feels like rest. But sitting is only rest when it is interrupted by movement. When it becomes the dominant condition of the day, it stops functioning like recovery. It becomes accumulation. Research on occupational sitting links prolonged sedentary work with cardiometabolic risk, musculoskeletal strain, and broader health problems that grow through repetition over time. The issue is rarely one afternoon. It is years of afternoons. This does not mean every desk job is a death sentence, and it does not mean sitting itself is evil. The problem is dosage. Hours become days. Days become habits. Habits become biology. Then, at the end of the day, we try to repair chronic stillness with one scheduled burst of exercise. Sometimes that helps enormously. But the deeper mismatch remains. We have turned movement into an appointment instead of the background condition of being alive. But the chair is only part of the trap. The more invisible problem starts before the body moves at all. It starts with a threat that never fully arrives and never fully ends. The human stress system is exceptionally good at mobilizing action under threat. A danger appears. Uncertainty rises. Attention narrows. Energy becomes available. The body prepares to do something. Move. Respond. Protect. Resolve. That system works well when the threat has shape, when it can be approached, escaped, fought, finished. Modern work often generates a different kind of pressure. A message from your manager, a deadline 2 weeks away, a review next month, a restructuring rumor, a fear you may be replaced. Expectations that are vague enough to remain threatening, but too abstract to confront directly. You cannot outrun an email. You cannot wrestle a spreadsheet. You cannot clearly defeat job insecurity. So the body prepares for action, while the environment demands stillness. The nervous system says, move. The workplace says, stay seated. The nervous system says, resolve the threat. The workplace says, wait for the next update. The nervous system says, something is wrong. The rational mind says, it is only a notification. But the older systems inside the brain are not evaluating notifications as modern software. They are evaluating uncertainty, status instability, loss of control, possible rejection, possible exclusion, possible loss of place. That is why a physically safe office can still produce a body that behaves as though danger has become ambient. Not sharp enough to end, only constant enough to wear you down. And underneath all of that, your brain may still be processing work through a much older logic. Not the company, the group. For ancient humans, Belonging was not a personality preference. It was infrastructure for survival. Food was shared through relationships. Protection came through relationships. Information moved through relationships. Care moved through relationships. To matter to the group was not merely emotionally pleasant. It could be life-saving. That is part of why modern work can feel far more personal than its language suggests. A promotion is not only higher pay, it is a signal of status. Being ignored in a meeting is not only inconvenient, it can feel like a social dimming. A short, critical message from a manager may contain 6 polite sentences, yet the body can hear a much older question inside it. Am I becoming less valuable here? Modern organizations use sterile words: performance, ranking, alignment, redundancy, restructuring. But the nervous system may translate them into ancient terms. Am I still useful? Am I still protected? Do I still belong to the group? This is why workplace belonging matters so deeply for well-being. Not because employees are fragile, but because social uncertainty has always carried biological weight for our species. Ancient contribution was often visible. People knew who shared food, who repaired tools, who remembered water, who protected children. Modern contribution can become abstract enough to feel unreal. You may work all day inside systems you did not design, toward metrics you did not choose, producing outcomes you never directly see. And when contribution becomes invisible, effort starts to feel strangely ghost-like. That leads to the deepest distortion of all. Modern work does not only organize labor, it reorganizes time itself. For most of human history, effort was usually tied to needs that could be perceived directly. The water was collected. The food was prepared. The route was completed. The shelter was repaired. The task might be difficult, but often the body could sense when the thing was done. Modern employment frequently purchases something more abstract, not just output, time, blocks of attention, 5 days a week, hour after hour, year after year. Even when meaningful effort for the day has already been exhausted, the clock may continue demanding presence. That is one of the strangest features of industrial and post-industrial work. Not simply that humans must work, but that they must remain available inside externally measured units of time, whether or not those units still correspond to meaningful completion. The clock solved enormous coordination problems. Factories could synchronize, trains could arrive, institutions could function. But it also did something psychologically radical. It turned lived time into scheduled property. And once large portions of your attention belong to a system outside yourself, even physical safety can begin to feel like captivity. The honest answer is more precise than the title. A 9-to-5 is not automatically destructive. Work can provide income, structure, identity, belonging, mastery, purpose. Many people do well with routine. The issue is not the number 9 or the number 5. The issue is what gets combined inside the schedule. Long stillness, high demand with low control, stress without resolution, weak social trust, invisible contribution, no clear ending, and no stable relationship between effort and meaning. The ancient human nervous system can tolerate difficulty. What it struggles to tolerate is difficulty without agency, pressure without completion, and effort without a felt reason. 300,000 years ago, work was rarely separate from life. It was movement, attention, cooperation, decision, visible consequence. Today, labor can happen in total physical safety while the body behaves as though something is deeply wrong. Not because every office is a predator, not because every job is a prison, but because human beings were shaped for effort that moved, for problems that could often be resolved, and for forms of contribution the group could actually see. Perhaps your 9 to 5 is not exhausting you because humans were meant to do nothing. Perhaps it is exhausting you because humans were built to do something that mattered, and then know, in body as well as mind, when it was done. Maybe the modern worker is not tired because the hunt is too hard. Maybe we are tired because the hunt never ends. At the end of your workday, what drains you most? The workload? The sitting? The lack of control? Or the feeling that nothing is ever truly finished? Tell us in the comments. And if you enjoy documentaries exploring evolution, psychology, and the ancient instincts hidden inside modern life, subscribe to Noren. Because sometimes the problem is not that you are failing to adapt. Sometimes the world changed faster than the human mind could follow.